there is this player called Mitchell Miller, and he was drafted by the Arizona Coyotes in 2020. After that happened, the team had to renounce their rights to this player because Miller's former classmate, named Isaiah Meyer-Crothers, I hope I'm getting that right, he spoke out about years and years and years of abuse at the hands of Mitchell Miller. Now, this Isaiah Myers-Crothers, the victim here, is a black person, also developmentally disabled, and some of the details of the attacks on Isaiah are really difficult to listen to, and I'm going to read what his statement was in a second. So just a bit of a trigger warning if you're listening here. But Mitchell Miller, who in the end, yes, was released by the Arizona Coyotes, although their hands are not clean because this was a matter of public record and common knowledge when he was drafted. He was released, and just recently, the Boston Bruins, thinking they could get away with it, signed him to an entry-level contract. Now, the blowback was so intense, including from the Bruins' own captain, Patrice Bergeron, who said more than a lot of NHL players would say. And, you know, the league is so backwards that his, like, tepid criticism of the signing was kind of amplified because you so rarely hear any of this whatsoever, and you kind of have to go into it with an understanding that this is rare for the NHL in general, so any kind of lukewarm criticism is amplified, as I say. But it was incredibly controversial, and you will see why when I read you this statement from Isaiah. I am Isaiah Meyer-Crothers. I would like to make a statement. I've been bullied since I was in first grade. There were not many black kids at my school. I was called Brownie and N-word. Kids said my black mom and dad didn't love me, and that's why I had white parents. Mitchell used to ask me to sit with him on the bus, and then he and his friends would punch me in the head. This happened my whole time in school. When I went to junior high, Mitchell would spit in my face and call me a N-word. I stopped telling because they called me a snitch, and I would get made fun of. I had to say I was his N-word, to sit at his table, and he made me clean the whole table. He threw food in my face. I was called N-word every day. The office would tell me to stay away from him because he wasn't my friend. Once he got expelled from school, his friends started bullying me. He pretended to be my friend and made me do things I didn't want to do. In junior high, I got beat up by him. By the way, this is me now speaking. This was not, 1 year of abuse. This started, apparently, from when they were in first and second grade for years and years. He tortured this kid. Everyone thought he was cool, but I don't see how someone can be cool when you pick on someone and bully someone your entire life. Middle of October, I was being texted constantly every day till I saw a Snapchat and IG message from Mitchell Miller. He asked me why I always have my parents doing stuff for me and why I can't speak for myself. I told him I don't care what my parents say. I'm old enough to speak for myself. He told me he was sorry and that the apology didn't involve hockey. He told me he was doing stuff in the community and helping the youth and wanted to be my friend. I told him that's cool, but where's the proof though? He didn't give any proof. All the lies I have been told from him for so many years, I don't believe what Mitchell told me. Sorry, this is a little hard to see. I'll look at it here. He kept asking me to be his friend and that he had changed over the years with what he did. I told him, I'm not going to be your friend after all you did to me. I am now getting messages on social media from people calling me a slow, retarded ass clown, you stupid N-word, saying I need help. Mitchell isn't my friend. It hurts my heart what he did to me. So I just wanted to tell everyone when Mitchell says we are friends, this isn't true. I can't take more of this. I wanted to read that in its entirety, just given the severity of the accusations, and how Miller has tried really hard to escape accountability. There were 2 boys involved in this bullying. They were both charged with assault in Ohio for violating the Ohio Safe Schools Act. They were ordered to do community service, to write letters of apology, to go to counseling. And the mother of this boy says that the second boy apologized to her son personally because one of the bullying incidents, including racial slurs, physical attacks, involved putting a piece of candy and rubbing it inside a urinal and having the boy Isaiah eat it. And you just see the obsession with Mitchell Miller, constantly calling him on and reaching out to him on social media and trying to just I mean harass him on a daily basis for years and years and years. And you just see the obsession that kind of bullying engenders. And that's why the mother of this boy says, well, the other boy apologized, but the only reason, and that's what Isaiah was saying in his statement there, that Miller reached out to him was because he was ordered to do so by the NHL in order for him to play. And that's why he said, where's the proof in that statement? And Mitchell Miller hired an agent, Eustace King, who was a black man. Eustace King said that he wanted Miller to, quote, he wanted the NHL to, quote, counsel, not cancel Mitchell Miller. So you can see what we're engaging in here. And Eustace King, his hands are not clean in this. He just wants a payday. I mean, agents get money when those players get signed. And that's kind of like the dirty waters that Eustace King is engaging in. But really the ultimate villains here outside of Mitchell Miller and the Bruins. The Bruins. Are you kidding me? It's like a original six organization that's supposed to conduct, and the police, we're dealing with the Blackhawks. This is the NHL, and they've covered up sexual assault in their organization for years and years and years. So I'm saying this almost aspirationally. It's not like original six teams have any kind of added cachet based on that kind of standard. But they should be conducting themselves with a lot more due diligence and just basic humanity than this, because I understand this happened when he was underage, but there's been no real remorse shown. I mean, there's been, except when he was mandated to do so, and he can go live his life, do anything else, but you don't get a spot in the NHL, a highly coveted spot, when this is your history. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a big aspect of a lot of these stories that goes not, I wouldn't say unnoticed, but is just kind of glossed over, which is the idea that his agent put forth of counseling and not canceling him. That would imply that he's done literally anything to rectify what he did to this kid.
Mm-hmm.
That would imply that he's had any interest in taking any public ownership or accountability for, let's be honest, terrorizing, bullying, and traumatizing this disabled person of color. It doesn't really matter how old he was when he's been doing this as seemingly almost his entire life. So it's actually just been a consistent pattern of behavior since he was a child.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it makes sense given like that his parents did not encourage him to personally apologize to Isaiah. The other boy did, and you can kind of see maybe what that household is teaching Mitchell Miller. And you can grow up with racist parents and bigoted and terrible parents, and then make a decision to branch off from that and grow. But as you said, there's no indication that that's happened.
And it especially if it is true, which I'm sure it is, that the other perpetrator here made a personal entreaty and apologized to this person in person, not being compelled by a court of law to do
years
so.
later. Yeah, and then then also in the court system.
If you require a court to mandate you to apologize for this type of behavior, and if you do it in a way, and if the only other time that you have done it is in a sort of expeditious way because you're about to get signed by another NHL team after the first one cut your ass, that's not sincere.
No.
And you know what? Like you said, This kid could be the most. This kid could, as Isaiah Crothers' mom, Meyer-Crothers' mom said, this kid could be Wayne Gretzky. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
His quality of play has no bearing on this. The Boston Bruins, the Arizona Coyotes, the entire National Hockey League, this is a corporation. These are teams. They have no obligation to hire this man. This is a business decision. They have no obligation.
Would this fly in any of the other leagues? Would this fly in the NFL or in the NHL? I mean, or in the NBA or in the MLB? I mean, look, those are they have their own massive issues. The NFL in particular, but like at least it is such a massive corporate entity that oversight for this kind of thing is necessary in order to push back PR and blowback from the public. Like the NHL feels it can get away with it because it's an old boys club. And they don't give a shit about this kind of stuff.
Right. And when Richie, but the thing is, when Richie Incognito, when that whole investigation came out about him bullying his teammates and him harassing his teammates, he did get cut, I believe, by the Bills, but he did ultimately start working again.
He did. Yeah.
So I think the issue I have is I'm sure there would have been maybe a bit of a more rigorous process to begin, and that these teams wouldn't have felt as if they could slyly sign him after drafting him or after he was cut from the first team. However, my cynicism here is only that it does sometimes seem like when a player does something morally odious, that usually the bar for re-entry into the league is contingent upon whether that person can still be an asset to a team.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. Richie Incognito, and that's a good point by you, because I hadn't thought about that in a while, so that contradicts what I'm saying. Although, I do think 2022 NFL, after Ray Rice and Richie Incognito, their PR team
that was a few years ago, yes.
But I mean, Richie Incognito was playing for the Raiders.
He was playing for the Raiders, and I think it might have been the Dolphins cut him.
Then he went to the Bills, and then he went to the Raiders.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So I mean, my point though about the NHL more broadly is that there's a lot that they let their players, I think, get away with that they feel is a lot more and much more that we don't know about, because it's so insular, it's lower stakes, they feel, and they like it like that. You wonder why the NHL doesn't market its players. They want it to be an old white boys club from kids from the North and kids from Canada.
That's why we can basically name like the 7 black players in the league.
Yeah,
we know all of them.
They prefer it because these teams, it's printing money to a degree, less oversight. It can be a little white haven for special white kids that excel athletically at this sport, and it's not like the NBA and the NFL where black people are taking over, right? I mean, baseball went through this with also like international players and black players. So the NHL is long overdue for a reckoning. But I don't know how much this changes, even though we get example after example of them trying to use their size to their advantage, in that allowing their players to act like this is a frat house, except one that they get paid to play for. And it sucks because it's just a beautiful, beautiful sport with highs and lows and excitement. And I don't think there's a live sporting event that I enjoy more than a hockey game, but it makes it so difficult to defend this this league when you hear story after story like this. And I guarantee you, of those big four, much less shit comes to light in the NHL than it does with those other ones.
And I think this will continue happening in many different sports until there is actually some sort of recourse that makes it more than the cost of doing business to try and covertly sign guys like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that there has to be a way for this to be discouraged. There has to be some sort, if you purport to have a so-called code of conduct, and that code of conduct is routinely flouted by the people making these personnel decisions, it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
It's complete corporate speak bullshit. And you can't purport to say you have these values and that this doesn't align with our values when those values are constantly overridden when it makes sense, when they need somebody on somebody who can, who's good at face-offs,
Right.
or can be a better factor in the penalty kill. If that matters more than this kid's life, if that matters more than this kid's kid being traumatized for the rest of his life because what this guy did to him over the course of their entire childhood, then there are no values.
Yeah.
And so until Isaiah Meyer-Crothers says that the apology for Mitchell Miller is sufficient enough, there's no fucking counseling before canceling.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
he shouldn't work again until that happens.